I'm attorney Robert Berkun. Give me a call at 716-855-FALL. That's 716-855-3255. My team of attorneys are here to help you.
The law offices of Robert Berkun are in the Main Place Tower, handling slip and fall cases on snow and ice, cracked sidewalks, broken railings, car and motorcycle crashes, and construction falls. In this special presentation, find out how you or your loved ones in Western New York can get the representation they need if they have been injured. Now, welcome Ashley Rowe.
Hello, I'm Ashley Rowe. If you or a loved one has been injured in any of the ways you just heard, then attorney Robert Berkun can help. We'll share important information that you need to know and how attorney Robert Berkun was able to help people just like you who have been injured. We'll meet Robert in just a moment, but first, hear the stories of people just like you and how the law offices of Robert Berkun helped.
While driving to work, I stopped to fill up my tank. The pump was pretty slow, so I decided to go inside the store and get a lottery ticket. I got my numbers, a coffee, and headed back outside. I took about 2 steps, hit some ice, and my feet just flew right out from under me. I landed square on my lower back real hard. My back was in really bad shape. I was out of work for months. My lottery ticket was not a winner, but the law offices of Robert Berkun came through for me. They got me a settlement of $280,000. Thanks, Robert Berkun.
And time now to meet attorney Robert Berkun and find out what you need to know in a slip and fall case. It is so good to be here with you, Robert.
It's nice to be here with you, Ashley.
There is so much to go over, but first let's just talk. What are the most common slip and fall cases?
Well, the most common slip and fall cases are snow and ice, broken sidewalks, broken driveways, broken parking lots, railings, broken steps, those type of situations.
And you have so much experience dealing with all of these different types of cases. What's the first thing someone needs to do if they become victim to a slip and fall case?
Well, if you get hurt after falling, you should call 911. If you have a friend there and you can't call, have your friend call or someone to get help. You need help immediately if you're that seriously injured. Second thing is, if it's possible, memorialize the situation, the scene. Take photographs. Get those pictures taken. It'll be very important so we can memorialize the scene and we can have those for further evidence in a case.
And you need to do that quickly, right? Because a lot can change.
Yes, things can change quickly, especially snow and ice. It can melt, it could get worse. The situation and the environment could change very quickly.
Somebody could even fix whatever the situation was that, let's say there was a broken railing or something like that. How quickly does that scene need to be captured in photographs?
You should do it as soon as possible before it changes. Someone could fix, the railing, the step,
right,
the sidewalk, whatever it is. So it's very important that you memorialize that, take that picture. Mm-hmm. But when you take the picture, take distance pictures. Don't just do it close up. If it's just close up, it could be anywhere in the area, the way it works. So you need the distance, you need a background, whatever it is, an apartment building, so you know where it's from.
To really prove that is where the incident happened.
Yes. I have had people, they bring evidence in or the photo and it's an inch away from the ice. Okay, that's great, but that can be from anywhere. So distance is important.
Okay, so call 911, take care of yourself, take a lot of photos from the scene, and then what should they do?
Well, then they should call my office, the law office of Robert Berkun, at 716-855-3255, and we could get the help that they need.
And as Robert just said, any one of their skilled attorneys will begin working with you one-on-one to begin your claim in order to get the best results possible and guide you through that important legal process.
Slip and fall? Give Berkun a call, 716-855-FALL. Be compensated for injuries and pain and suffering.
I'm attorney Robert Berkun. When someone fails to maintain the property and you're injured by a slip and fall, don't wait. Give me a call.
If you are injured due to someone else's negligence, call Berkun.
Slip and fall is due to cracked sidewalks, holes in the ground, broken railings, broken steps, or snow and ice can cause serious injuries.
Slip and fall? Give Berkun a call, 716-855-FALL.
Welcome back. Here are more examples of real cases that Robert Berkun and his team handled. Slips and falls could happen in any situation, with uneven sidewalks or due to loose or non-existent handrails.
My life is busy. I got remarried last year, started on my master's degree, and my wife and I are expecting a baby. So I started making food deliveries for restaurants to make some extra money. One busy night I dropped off an order at a home that had concrete steps on their front porch. There was light snow falling. I didn't want to risk slipping, so I grabbed hold of the iron railing. But as soon as I leaned on it, the railing went down and I went down with it. I saw a doctor and found out that I really messed up my knee and wrist. That meant no food delivery, no extra money coming in, and lots of physical therapy for my injury. But I did connect with the law offices of Robert Berkun, and they got me a settlement of $200,000. What a great help for our family. Thanks, Robert Berkun.
Ever since my uncle passed away, I've helped look after my aunt with general errands. One day, I had her dry cleaning in one hand and her seeded marble rye bread in the other when I tripped and fell on the sidewalk. I went face first into the concrete, hurting my left arm. The sidewalk wasn't even in front of the bakery. I had a fracture and nerve damage. The doctors were afraid I might need a tendon transfer. While recuperating, I couldn't even work, drive, or take care of my aunt. But I could reach out to the law offices of Robert Berkun. And after all that, I got a settlement of $150,000. And I'm back taking care of my aunt again. Thanks, Robert Berkun.
Robert, in situations we just saw, how important is it to take immediate action?
Well, it's important to take the action of taking care of yourself. If you memorialize the scene, find out where you fell, make sure you know the address where you fell. That makes it a little bit easier. Then, if you have to go to the hospital, whatever it is. But then call our firm, then we can help you from there.
And in case you are just joining, what is the best number for people to call?
It'll be 716-855-3255.
That is how you can reach out to Robert Berkun and his legal team. Robert, how long do people have to legally file a claim?
Normally, it's a period of 3 years. That's a normal statute of limitations, but there are exceptions. Exceptions being if it's a municipality. A municipality is you have to file something called a notice of claim within 90 days. Then to file a lawsuit, it's 1 year and 90 days. And also, there's other different types of negligence type cases there that statute is less than 3 years, such as medical malpractice, which is normally 2.5 years. But there are exceptions to that recently changed where it could be longer period of time.
And God forbid a child is injured in a slip and fall or other accident, but in that case, is it also 3 years?
It's 3 years initially, but when the child becomes 18 and let's say the lawsuit was not filed within that 3 years, they would have an exception, and when they're 18 for a period of 1 year, they could file that by themselves.
You talked about municipalities just a moment ago. When we're talking about slip and fall or personal injury situations, not all municipalities have the same laws, is that right?
That's correct. Regarding sidewalk, it is different in each town. So, I've done this a long time. So, for most towns, almost all the towns, we know what the different ordinances state pertaining to the sidewalk laws. But every town is different.
And that is why it is important to get the expertise of Robert Berkun and his legal team. In a moment, find out what you need to do if you are involved in a car or motorcycle accident.
I love riding my motorcycle. I wear a helmet and I'm always cautious. But there was that one time when I stopped for a red light at a city intersection. The light turned green and I started to ride. Then a van blew past the red light coming the other way, hitting me hard and throwing me off my bike. It took me many months and many surgeries later to recover. My case went to trial, and when the jury heard from my attorney, Robert Berkun, I got a verdict of $1.1 million. Thanks, Robert Berkun.
Oh yeah, I've known Robert for a good long while. Like the time when you won my trial. We had a big jam when you passed the bar. We had some tickets, me ayudó con la ley. Dije, slip and fall, give Berkun a call. Slip and fall, give Berkun a call. See, I'm a Berkun. Slip and fall, give Berkun a call. Slip and fall, llama a Berkun. See,
Usted ha sido lesionado en un accidente de resbalón y caída. Llame al abogado Robert Berkun o 855-3255. Ellos hablan español.
llama a Berkun.
Welcome back. The law offices of Robert Berkun can help you because an automobile, motorcycle, bicycle, or truck accident can happen at any time.
My daughter, Caitlin, is one of those kids that's almost too careful about things. Always gets her homework done early and lays her clothes out for the next day. She's on top of things. When she rides her bike, it's no different. Her helmet is always on, she looks out for other people, and obeys all traffic rules. When she was hit by a car, I never assumed it was her fault. Caitlin had stopped at a stop sign and was crossing the intersection. A car made a sudden left turn, no signal, and hits Caitlin, knocking her off her bike. She really hurt her shoulder, leg, and ankle. I talked to the law offices of Robert Berkun. They were able to get us a settlement of $250,000. Caitlin is doing better now and is back riding her bike. Thanks, Robert Berkun.
I don't work in an office. I'm an electrician. I was driving to my second job of the day when a car made a sudden left turn in front of me. I tried to swerve out of the way, but we still hit pretty hard. My truck was totaled. Most of my equipment was destroyed too. It's one thing to replace a vehicle. It's a whole other situation rebuilding your professional toolkit. My neck, shoulder, and back were pretty messed up. It was a big problem for an electrician. Luckily, I got the help I needed from the law offices of Robert Berkun. They were able to plug me in with a settlement of $750,000. Thanks, Robert Berkun.
Robert, should someone find themselves in a situation where they need help, what kind of information do you and your team need from them?
Well, I need to know what happened to them, when it happened, what time it happened. If it was a snow and ice type case, what was the weather like at that time? We'll need basic information also, the date of birth, where they live, how long they live there, where they work, how long have they worked there. We'll know if this is a lost wage claim, what were their earnings were. We need that information. We'll need their health insurance information. In certain cases, there could possibly be a lien on the file that one of the health insurers would have to be compensated if the case got resolved. So we would need that information. The witnesses, if there are witnesses, we need their phone numbers so we can get a hold of these people. And if there's photographs, if they took photographs. We have to find out sometimes exactly where it happened so we get pictures. Let's say it's a broken driveway. Well, where in the driveway was it? So we can go back and take pictures. So we need the exact location.
You mentioned workplace and finding out about lost wages. How could a slip and fall accident impact someone's ability to make money?
Oh, could be devastating. If you slip and fall, there's no money to be coming up front in these type of cases. It's unlike an automobile accident where there's something called no fault. This is just part of the case, the lost wages. So unless you have some disability policy, there'll be no money coming up front. So it's very difficult for people.
And let's touch on that motorcycle where you mentioned no fault insurance. So how could it impact somebody who has been in a motor vehicle accident?
If it's a motorcycle, there is no fault. It's not applicable. They don't have that policy in a standard motorcycle. There are exceptions where you possibly could get it, but generally you cannot in a motorcycle. In automobiles, it's part of the coverage where if you're a driver in the vehicle or a passenger, whatever it is, the no-fault policy will cover your health insurance and your lost wages up to $50,000. That is considered basic coverage.
Interesting. There are certain terminology that I think is really important for people to know if they find themselves in these situations. One of them is vicarious liability. What does that term mean?
If you're an employer and there's an employee, the employer is responsible for the acts of the employee. So let's say the employee is negligent somehow and hurts someone else due to the negligence. The employer, if it happens during work, is responsible. Also, let's say someone owns a vehicle and they let someone else use their vehicle and that person is negligent when they drove. The owner of the car is vicariously liable.
Interesting. Okay, that's important to know. You handle so many different types of cases. Let's talk specifically about construction, workplace, fall from height cases. How complex are they?
Construction cases are something called the 240 and 241 labor law type cases. They're strict liability cases. So let's say there is a roofer or construction worker up on a height, and say you're 20, 30 feet up in the air, and you fall to the pavement. Well, the injuries are devastating. And those are considered strict liability cases, as long as the property they're on is considered commercial property. Even if it's a home, but if the person who owns it doesn't live there and just rents it out, that would fall into that category. Now, if it's a residential property and the person owns the property also lives there, that would not fall under that category. Homeowners are excluded unless they're directing or controlling the work.
What about renters? What rights do renters have?
Renters have the same rights as everybody else. There could be exceptions based upon if there's a lease and what that lease says, of what the responsibilities are to take care of the property. If it's snow and ice removal, but where is the snow and ice removal? There could be, if it's a complex, you're not supposed to take care of everything in a complex. Sometimes the apartments are houses convert into commercial property, and maybe they're only supposed to take care of one certain area, not everything. So it all depends on what the lease says specifically.
I'm so fascinated by all of the nuances, and the devil really is in the details, and it's your job to figure out what those details are so that you can recover at home. Tell us how you represent pedestrians who are struck by a vehicle, a truck perhaps.
Well, pedestrians would be covered under the no-fault law of the person who hit them. Their no-fault or personal injury protection would cover them up to $50,000 for the lost wages and the medical expenses. And then if there's a serious injury, which it usually would consider a serious injury, it would go under that threshold of the insurance law. Now, we've seen a huge uptick in people-related fatalities and injuries for pedestrians or bicyclists or motorcyclists, because the way in America we designed the motorways. We designed the motorways to move traffic and for people in the vehicles to go faster. And without really taking consideration the pedestrians or the people on the bicycle or the motorcycle. And there are things that we could design our highways differently to protect them. But currently, the people inside the automobile, they're safer. Our vehicles are much safer than they used to be due to seatbelts, due to airbags, and other sorts of devices to make things safer. But pedestrians, their fatalities or injuries have increased in the last 20 years.
Yeah. I know that people inside the car are safer, but you have had clients that are passengers. What do passengers need to know if they find themselves in an accident?
What they need to do is get the information from the driver of what their automobile insurance coverage was, because that is going to cover them for their lost wages and their health insurance, up to first $50,000 as a basic coverage.
Is there anything different for bicyclists, or are they treated like pedestrians?
Bicyclists would be considered the same as a pedestrian in that situation.
Now, I know you welcome clients from all different backgrounds in all different sorts of ways, of course by phone. Remind me of that phone number.
It's 716-855-3255, which is 3255 is fall.
Perfect. But you also help through various forms of technology. How can people get in touch with you if they aren't going to pick up the phone, and how can you also accommodate their needs based on their own circumstances?
You could, through the computers or email, we can do, or my website. Emails is rbjd62@yahoo.com, or my website, or through technology. And if we have to, we could do DocuSign. If for some reason we can't meet, or you don't have time to meet with us at that moment, we could do DocuSign for paperwork, and so we can just get the ball rolling.
I know you have a wealth of knowledge in this area as well as so many areas in the legal world, but I also know you don't do this alone. You have a skilled and diverse team that you work alongside.
Yes, I work with 3 other lawyers. And also we have a staff that we're well diversified. 2 people speak Spanish, so that is very helpful. And if someone does have like a language barrier, we will do everything we can to either get an interpreter or just be able to communicate accordingly.
Have you experienced an injury from a fall due to snow and ice? A broken or cracked sidewalk? Auto, motorcycle, or bicycle accident? Were you a passenger in a car accident? Or a pedestrian who was struck? Involved in a construction accident? Fall from height? Workplace injury? Injury due to a broken railing or broken steps? Remember, slip and fall? Give Berkun a call.
It was my birthday, of course, and 4 of us from work went out for dinner. We had cake, open gifts. It was a really good time. When it was time to leave, we were walking through the back parking lot, walking to our cars, when I just went down. I fell flat on my face. There was this big pothole right there in the parking lot. My right hand was hurting, but I figured I'm okay. The next day, my hand still hurt a lot when I drove, typed, or picking up a coffee cup. Turns out I had 2 fractured bones in my right hand. After going to the doctor, I went to the law offices of Robert Berkun. They got me $163,000. Thanks, Robert Berkun.
Slip and fall? Give Berkun a call. Be compensated for injuries and pain and suffering.
Cracked sidewalks, holes in the ground, broken railings, broken steps, or snow and ice can cause serious injuries.
Slip and fall? Give Berkun a call. 855-FALL.
Robert, tell us more about how a client's medical situation would be evaluated by you.
We would get all the medical records. Basically, the person would sign the authorizations. We get all the medical records. We start looking at it, but we also have advantage of having an in-house medical doctor who will help with reviewing all the records, summarizing the records, and reviewing it for us to put it more in detail of what the highlights of what is really important. But over time and my other attorneys in my office, we've done this for a long time. I practiced over 30 years. So we've done this, but having a medical doctor in-house at our assistance is a great advantage.
You've practiced for over 30 years, so now we know Robert Berkun, the attorney, but I want to know a little bit more about Robert Berkun, the guy who grew up in Western New York. Can you tell us a little bit about your upbringing and how you got into this field?
Okay, well, I'm from the Buffalo area. I went to Waynesville South High School. Originally we lived in Buffalo, then we moved out to Waynesville. I have two older brothers, Rick and Doug. My brother Rick is a doctor in Florida, and my brother Doug's in the Buffalo area. He works for L&M Planning Agency. He's a financial planner. He's lived here his entire life. And my parents, my father, he worked in the junkyard. He had a tire business, basically selling retreaded tires and selling the rim. And every summer, my brothers and I would work for him, and it was extremely difficult job. And my mother, I remember we were in 5th grade, we went to New York, and her purpose was to buy costume watches. I think she bought 25 costume watches, and she wanted to start selling jewelry. She always loved jewelry, and she wanted to start selling jewelry. And she started out of her home. And then a couple years later, I think I was maybe in 8th grade at the time, she opened a jewelry store. It was called Jewelry by June. It was on Bernhardt Road near Main Street in Snyder. And she had a successful jewelry store for many years.
I was going to say, work ethic and entrepreneurialism, two things that you learned from your parents, I'm sure.
Yes, there's no question about that.
Yeah.
They both worked very hard.
And let's talk about your family now.
I'm married. My wife's a medical doctor. I have 3 sons. Ben is a medical doctor. He's a surgical resident in Chicago right now. My youngest son, Jason, he is at George Washington University Law School. And my middle son, Ryan, he has a technology company that he is the CEO of.
Oh, wonderful. Now, you got into practice in 1990, is that right?
I started in Florida, passed the bar in 1988, sworn in 1989, took to the New York State Bar by 1989, and was sworn in 1990.
What made you want to become a lawyer?
I remember when I was young, I was watching an old movie, and it was with Paul Newman. It was called The Young Philadelphian. And there was a courtroom scene, and he was the attorney in the case, and he was representing someone charged with murder. And I remember him cross-examining who I realized later on in life had become a lawyer was the expert witness. And he was able to discredit the expert witness. And I was just fascinated with that. But later on, I've always had an interest in the law of what is allowed. What can a police officer do? What is legal to stop someone, to frisk someone? What is not? What's legal under the 4th Amendment? Those type of situations I always found very intriguing, and I wanted to know more.
Yeah, you started in criminal law and then you moved over to personal injury. What motivated that change?
Originally I just started with criminal law. It was you're in court every day with criminal law, and you cross-examine a lot of people. And then some people started calling me regarding personal injuries, and it just started transferring over for my work.
Well, you are in a city with a lot of snow and a lot of ice, and we know that those are 2 major contributors to slip and fall and personal injury. You also have a real fascination with the Supreme Court and constitutional law.
Yes, I found it very interesting. It's a great document that is somewhat ambiguous, and it should be, to me, interpreted the way people are at the current time that we're living and when they were living.
And where did you go to college?
I went to George Washington University in Washington, D.C. And after I graduated, I went to start law school, and I went to law school in San Diego, California, California Western School of Law.
Oh, so nice that you came back to Buffalo.
I came for the weather, yes.
Tell us about some of the more interesting cases that you've worked on.
Well, I remember one case My client, he slipped and fell on ice, and he ended up having back surgery. He was helping his daughter move. His daughter was living in an apartment complex, and she was pregnant at the time, and they had black mold. And she kept getting sick, and they knew it was a very good idea to get out. And the ice was there for a period of 3 to 4 days, and nothing was taken care of. The client went out, was helping her move, ended up slipping on the ice. He knew the ice was there, but there's nothing he could do. He was trying to help his daughter. He had to get her out of there. So this was the evidence during the trial, and came to closing arguments. And I remembered, I reflected on a conversation that I heard on the radio. So I correlated that of what someone would do for their child, of how far, what they do for their child, to what this person who got hurt was doing for his daughter at the time. And the verdict was very favorable for my client.
Oh, what a wonderful story, and glad that worked out well for you and your client.
Yes, it did.
I've known Robert for a good long while. I like the time that he won my trial. Got me out of a jam when he passed the bar. Got me out of some tickets, helped me out with the law. I said, slip and fall, give Berkun a call. Slip and fall, give Berkun a call. I give Berkun a call. Slip and fall, give Berkun a call. Slip and fall, give Berkun a call. That's 855-FALL. Workplace staircase accident falls. Motorcycle bicycle slips in the mall. Autos, doctors, no time to stall. Yeah, give Berkun a call.
In our remaining moments, we have some quick questions to get out some fast facts. First of all, what do you need to do after an accident or after a slip and fall?
You have to take care of your health. So if you call 911, go to a doctor, whatever you have to do. If you're able to, take pictures of the scene and memorialize the scene, and then call my office.
And what's the number?
716-855-3255.
Okay. Do I need to be examined by an insurance doctor?
If the case goes into suit and the other side, defense attorneys request it, then you would have to. That is called an independent medical examination, also known as a defense medical examination. And if that is requested, yes, you would have to.
You sort of touched on this, but how important is it to be immediately treated for your injuries?
Well, it's your health. You have to do, what's best for you at that moment.
Okay. If an insurance company calls you, what do you do?
With some exceptions. Take their information, don't tell them anything about what happened, and then call my office at 716-855-3255.
Who pays for lost wages and medical bills?
Depends on the situation. If it's a slip and fall, your own health insurance will have to pay for the medical expenses. There's no law, you're not going to be paid up front for the lost wages. It is all part of the case. If you got hurt in a car accident, that no fault or PIP, personal injury protection, would cover up to $50,000.
And what do I do if I have questions about my case?
Call my office immediately at 716-855-3255.
Attorney Robert Berkun, thank you so much for all of the valuable information that you've provided and how you and your team can help for slip and falls, accidents, and other kinds of legal situations.
And thank you, Ashley. Thank you for having me.
I'm Ashley Rowe. Thanks for joining us.
Have you experienced an injury from a fall due to snow and ice? A broken or cracked sidewalk? Auto? Motorcycle or bicycle accident? Were you a passenger in a car accident or a pedestrian who was struck? Involved in a construction accident? Fall from height? Workplace injury? Injury due to a broken railing or broken steps? Remember, slip and fall, give Berkun a call.